Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Kim from Good News Mental Health Podcast. So, this episode is a little bit different because, as you know, Brissa is my colleague and my friend. And we were just having a work meeting and we started talking about the recent developments of political division and just kind of like party loyalists versus switching parties, like bipartisanship. And we were just like talking about and processing together as a friend. And as the conversation went, it actually ended up being really, really amazing. So we stopped the meeting and we started recording because I think what Brissa and I talked about really showed how I would want to see conversations happening place in the world and especially our country as a child psychiatrist. So if you ever wondered like, hey, like I'm not really happy with the bipartisan political system. I want to switch parties or I'm hurt by my own party or I don't know how to disagree or agree to disagree. Hey, this episode is for you because Brissa and I really talk about, at the end of the day, what matters. And I really bring in my psychiatrist perspective of the presence of emotional fragility in our society and conversations today. And I hope that it enlightens, maybe not, some of you. Maybe there's part of you who would not like this. But if majority of you, I know that will care to listen because I know that you want to change. I know that you want others to change. I know that you want the country to change. So I hope that you listen to the episodes because I kind of share our humble stories and our limitations in this matter. Because I'm not a politician, I'm not an economist, I'm not a historian at all. I'm just a psychiatrist who senses that emotional fragility is everywhere and reactive comments on social media is really continuing to hurt each other and just what is a psychiatrist's perspective in politics. So this is out of my wheelhouse, but I just want to bring you guys a little bit more mental health perspective on continue to have healthier conversation, especially people who disagree with you. Just a disclaimer, Brisa and I are Christian, so we'll be kind of coming from our Christian faith background. And Brissa and I are not affiliated with either party. So we kind of talk about Democrats and Republicans in I would think that is a more fair way. So this is not a political affiliation kind of conversation. But one thing that you'll catch is that Brissa and I are very analytical. So we are not really emotional. We tend to kind of sit back and kind of say like, what's going on really here? And I hope that you really benefit from our conversation of two analytical female who are Christian, but not affiliated with any of the political parties. So I know that it's going to kind of start off a little bit abrupt because it's in the middle of the meeting, but I hope that you stay until the end because it's going to be really good. I hope you enjoy the impromptu episode. It's a really nice day, living in the right space. Breathing your gas, got me feeling some kind of way. Are you doing something out of reactionary because you're just not satisfied with who you are here and now?
It's a
And
great
that really it really is an inner child work because whether it's gender change or overworking, drinking, numbing out your pain, addiction, plastic surgery, it really comes down to are you happy with who you are right here and now? And I think
Mhm.
the goal of therapy is not to feed mantra or oh, yeah, if you really would love yourself better if you're something different, then go for it. I feel like that's a wrong direction. I think you should say, you know that you're accepted and loved, at least in the safe space, no matter what you do. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's so many golden nuggets in that because with plastic surgery, with transitioning, it's always we don't ask the question, are we in a place where I love myself fully? And that security. And I think that's what we were both saying. Like, we place our security in other earthly people that happen to be political leaders. That's going to fail us at the end. That person is going to fall short. You in your marriage and your husband, if you put all of your eggs in that basket, he or she's going to fall short, your spouse, right? So,
Mhm.
like if I expect my husband to like, I don't know, like tell me every single day I'm beautiful or do whatever, and I'm not getting self-validation. I just need the validation from him. I'm putting all my eggs in that basket of like love, and therefore I'm not loving myself. And if he doesn't do it one day, then he falls short. So like with
Mhm.
anyone that we're wanting that expression, like I remember becoming so happy when I started feeling so self-validated and loved by myself. And that was in
Yeah.
recent years as an adult. And that took
Yeah.
a really long time. Imagine the wonders you can do with your children now that they're getting so confident and secure in themselves. If there's bullies at school, like obviously
Mhm.
making sure they're protected and safe, but also letting them know like that they should not adapt or pivot to the bullies or others' way of thinking about
Yeah.
themselves in like affirmations. And so I think that's the problem with where we are today. People are fighting, they're trying to justify whether it's our president or somebody else's words, they're trying to justify it because their idea of who they were on the political side sometimes falters. Well, guess what? It will
Mhm.
falter. Whether you're a liberal, a Democrat, or a Republican, everyone's
Mhm.
going to come short of your expectations. But do you have the vulnerability and emotional maturity to say, you know what, I was wrong. I used to think this person was great, but they're not. Nobody's saying that about any side of the presidency. Anyone, blue or red. Nobody says that because they need to be sure, they need to be validated, they need to be right.
Yeah.
It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to go in a debate with a political leader and you thinking you were right and for you to be wrong against that leader and vice versa, right? Whoever is carry that's what debate is. You go in at the risk with the confidence thinking you're going to be right. At the end of the day, if that other person's like words were more valid than yours, then you're like, "Oh, shoot. I shouldn't be wrong or I shouldn't be mad about being wrong. I should be like, "Oh, you know what? That's a possibility." Like that
Yeah.
I didn't think no one is being vulnerable enough to say that they were wrong in the moment.
And let me tell you about the risk of admitting that right,
Oh,
because we're
yeah.
all scared of what will happen if we finally admit that I was wrong about this guy, I was wrong about this girl.
Yeah.
Because we don't think we'll be accepted, we think we'll be stomped upon, we think we'll be rejected by both parties, right? Like our own party will
Yeah.
reject us,
Yeah.
and then the other party will just crucify us if
Yeah.
we just say like, let me just think for myself. Good trend that I see on social media now is like everybody's like, wait, I was this party but I don't like this, like, but one of the social media trend is like pointing out you don't have to join one or the other party. And that's the danger of bipartisanship, where there's no middle ground for you
Yeah.
to be completely independent thinking and free from this back and forth dialogue. So I think, I guess, like, takeaway number one right now based on this conversation, you don't have to pick a side. Number two that I thought of, kind of going back to our inner child kind of relationship. So I got off the podcast with somebody who's a Christian, and we were just talking about the role of or presence of New Ageism in Christians, because we were both saying she was getting burnt out by legalistic, Christian, you're wrong no matter what, so you need to do this and that. But New Age seems like a very fluid, very accepting circle, so then some people jump the ship from one ship to the other ship
Mhm.
thinking that this is my home because I'm accepted as who I am and they're open to my ideas and they let me be who I am, but you're still jumping from one ship to the other,
Yeah.
So this idea of individual security of who you are and this sense of permitting yourself that even if you're not accepted by either parties, like it doesn't change anything about who you are.
Yeah. And I love that because then you become aware that you're like, I don't need you. I don't need
Yeah.
you to like help me grow in the sense of like your identity should just not be in those like earthly matters. Yes, do some of our faith beliefs or whatever line up coincidentally with the country, the state of whatever? Yes. But also we forget that like nobody else can be like Jesus. Nobody else. So
Mhm.
that's like the number one flaw we have as a society. Like we want to back up whoever is closest to Jesus, like and claim them as like, no, they're right in everything, right? And so
Mhm.
we have to examine that Jesus did very uncomfortable things w- with a lot of the things that we prioritize or he might not have been going to go protest things that were anti-Christian. He was hanging
Mhm.
out with them and asking them tough questions like
Mhm.
in a debate, right? Like
Mhm,
that's what
mhm,
you do.
mhm.
Not shooting anyone he didn't like. I mean, someone
Right.
did that to him, but he went and I remember a very, very like conservative Christian church. I grew up with in El Paso. There was a couple, they were in the military and they moved out to California because that's where they were doing like their 3 years rotation.
Mhm,
And when they came back to El Paso, um, everyone's like, "Oh, we missed you, blah, blah. Would you ever go back to California?" And they were like, "No, it was very, Satan-like," or I don't know what
mm,
words they used.
mhm,
But then for some reason, that quickly triggered a thought of like, Jesus would probably go to those places all the time, hang
mm,
out, live, and not feel flustered, not be
mhm,
bothered because like
mhm,
he wasn't scared of who he was. And
mhm,
so like us, we get clicky. We get
mhm.
scared of different thinking. We get scared if anyone steps outside of our ideological circle. We don't, so we become states of red or blue, right? Like we become,
Mhm.
if everything was balanced and beautiful, nobody would have a red or blue state. It would just be like purple or whatever red and blue make. It
Yeah,
would
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
a mix. But people get clicky and then they're just like nobody make, I don't know, what's the whole thing that Texas says is like don't bring California to whatever, which
Uh-huh.
is funny because as Texas we think that we're our own country and it's like a whole joke
Yeah.
itself and it's
Uh-huh.
identity, but also like
Yeah.
Jesus would never say that. Jesus would never say you guys stay out of my circle because I don't like you and you don't align with me, and vice versa.
Mhm.
Everything goes back to Jesus. And so we need to just see, we need to humble ourselves because I've been on both sides. I've been on the, actually not on both sides, I've been on the extremist side of Christianity. I've never been on the extremist side of non-Christianity. Now I would say I'm in the middle where I'm like, and you, Dr. Kim, know this, like where I'm a Jesus follower of the Bible and Jesus. And I take things with a grain of salt due to church hurt. If
Mhm,
there's a
mhm,
leader who says something, I love,
mhm.
I love a lot of pastors and what they say. And there are just some things that don't necessarily resonate with me, but they may not be wrong in what they're saying. They just don't
Right.
resonate, right? And so you have to be aware of like, you know, who am I at the end of the day? Okay, I'm this person in Jesus, not this person,
Yeah.
pastor so and so.
I like that you're also aware of your triggers because you're like, okay, I had issues with authoritarian-ish,
Mhm,
that figure, and I'm no longer going to believe everything they're gonna say,
mhm,
and like I just wanted to I'm glad that we're having this conversation because as a psychiatrist looking at the society on both sides, and I'm like, guys, these are the symptoms of emotional fragility
mhm,
is when you react and you do things and say things without processing what you're feeling and thinking and why. And I think the social media algorithm does that, mass media algorithm does that. I think word choices from both sides does that, where it's becoming us and them. But
mhm.
like you're saying, should be. I think you can still pick a side at the end of the day, but it shouldn't be like, "I'm gonna be blue for rest of my life," or "I'm gonna be
Yeah.
red for rest of my life." Like, let's kinda think this through and see which policies kinda resonate close to you, because and here's what I also noticed too, especially when the immigration tackle was happening. So I saw people from both sides reacting, and I kinda saw this as, okay, if you're thinking strictly economic, capitalist kinda country for the betterment of the future of the country, I can understand we need
Mhm,
to control immigration, right? And we need
mhm,
to control what kind of benefits and government spending is happening with the immigration. So we need to calculate that, just like you're doing budget for your house or quarterly estimates for your business. Like we need to do
right,
that. The
right.
other side, I saw people using Jesus saying Jesus was pro immigrant, pro love, pro
Mhm,
things like that, which I understood, but Jesus was also very aware of the ins and outs. Like he talked about taxes, he talks about giving, he talks about everything.
mhm,
So both sides were using Jesus to like argue against each other. But there was like protests at this time when I had this, there's protests going on everywhere. There's one lady who was going to these protests and fighting the protesters because I think one of her family members got killed by illegal immigrant.
mm, mhm,
And she was like, They are not saying all day, but they were like, this needs to be controlled because my family member died because of the illegal
Mhm.
immigrants, right? So it really resonated with me that politics is man made, just
Mhm.
like religion,
Mhm.
man-made set of rules and guidelines to decide on policies. But the
Mhm.
policies are dependent on our stories, and
Mhm.
we're not gonna have the same stories. And that's why majority rules a lot of times based on all our stories and what we vote for. And the majority of the stories that resonates most and benefits most people will decide on the policies. And that's what politics are. The nature of politics is that you're not going to be benefiting from all the policies because your stories might be in the minority. But
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that it's wrong or right. It just means that you are not represented because you happen to be the minority of the cases. So I just hope that people kind of come out from this bipartisan all or nothing thinking. But the most important thing is know your story.
Mhm.
Know which policies and which topics resonates most with you because there's Jesus represented in both parties. There's evil represented in both parties' policies, but you really can't win them all. So know the policy that's tried and true and very important in your heart. And you kind of, when it comes to voting, it is a choice. And with an imperfect bipartisan system, we have to pick a side. So we just can't win them all. And there's no right or wrong, but pick the one that's most important to you because your story matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. 100, 100, 100%. Your story matters. And I remember when I was becoming really politically involved. I don't know if you're familiar with this candidate who was running, who I became pretty like obsessed with him as like a human was Andrew Yang years and years ago.
Oh,
And Andrew Yang had a lot of interviews where like he didn't know where to run, Republican or
mhm,
Democrat. He didn't know,
mhm,
but he pretty much despised Trump, even though he had more Republican innately like policies.
mhm,
He's like, I'm going to run against you.
mhm,
And he did. He didn't get a lot of airtime. He was younger. He was a minority. There were a lot of things that one could argue, like he just wasn't as popular.
mhm,
But I have one of his hats to this day. Like I supported his campaign a lot, but instead of like, he was kind of like trying to go off of MAGA and he went math because he was an economist too, right?
uh-huh,
So he thinks in numbers and math,
uh-huh,
but it was make America think harder. And I loved that tagline. I still wear that hat everywhere I go. It's got an American flag and says math. But I thought that was so important to what you're saying. Think,
yeah,
reflect, and ask. And just because you're progressing with a policy does not mean that you're trying to omit history all on its own. You're trying to say,
mhm,
what is the betterment of this given history, given whether it's Christianity or not or whatever. But like you said, we can't just like, all we have left to do is picking and choosing, right? And so one of the great things that Andrew Yang was not perfect either by all means, but I was really gunning for him was he had this story on his podcast back in the day where an analogy of like this giant elephant and that somebody mentioned talked about the elephant saying like, hey, this elephant has this like gray
mhm,
patch. And then this other person
mhm,
said, hey, this no, like this elephant has this like furry whatever. And that other
yeah,
person,
yeah, 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 yeah,
what I feel. And then all of these people start arguing. And then you realize that everyone has a different slice of the elephant, but it's all the elephant.
mhm,
The elephant is right or correct, and everyone is right. Every single
right,
person
right, right, right,
is right in what they're saying. They're just
right,
not seeing each other's point of view.
right,
So like I absolutely loved that analogy and I always try to like learn and take from it saying like you're not wrong unless you kill someone. But like
uh-huh,
you're not wrong when you say if you tell me what you believe in, what you are passionate about, I can't say you're wrong. Like you've
mhm,
experienced things that I have not experienced. It's
yeah,
hard with like the whole immigration thing because I understand both sides. Is like from an analytics point, like an economist point or perspective, we have to regulate something, right?
mhm,
But we have to understand we have to have a system in place already, not just
yeah,
like let's just do it this way and leave kids
yeah,
starving everywhere, right? Like we have
yeah,
to understand not only why we're doing it, have a system in place, have the funds for it, and not overspend in other areas if this is our priority. But of course, things are never well thought out with like our country because they're extremists. So one just like chops at whatever the other one was doing last.
Yeah.
And so,
Also to the point that politics and running a nation is such a complicated issue. And I would say that I don't know anything about national level economy where,
oh, yeah, yeah,
like I'm like, "Oh, he's saving this much money from international funds, but he's spending this much on this." I can barely do my household budget. So it's like
yeah.
I'm gonna just humble myself saying I don't know how to calculate nation-wide
You
economy
just
on that.
You just said something that I was gonna bring up earlier to another point that you made,
Uh-huh.
full circle, is, there are so many people who can't say, "I don't know." In the same realm of when we're talking
Mhm.
about that people hate to be wrong, but, like, debate is great, but at the end of the day, if one party or both parties are trying to fight their way, whether it is justifying Jesus with, like, immigration, like, both sides, right? It is way more smart and at a higher intellect level, society doesn't think that, but it is if you were to say, "You know what? I don't know
Mhm.
because I have the Bible and I have things
Mhm.
that I think are responses, but I have the English language. I can
Mhm.
interpret things my way. I went through a different childhood trauma than you did. Therefore, when I
Mhm.
read this triggers me, but it doesn't trigger you. So that doesn't mean that I'm right and you're wrong or you're whatever, right?" So like if people were to just say like, "You know what? I don't know. You're right. I don't know. I can't argue." People are, "Well, you're stupid or flaky." And I'm like, so
Yeah.
we're forcing each other to pick a side to seem smart and passionate. But
Yeah.
if I say I don't know, it doesn't make me not passionate. It just makes me be like, I'm pausing and reflecting. And that's a great point. I don't know, but that doesn't look good on Facebook algorithms, like, or, it doesn't look good to be flaky. So, like, the world would be so much better if we just said, "I don't know, but God knows. I don't know."
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to do,
Yeah.
but God
And
knows.
also it's like, why don't you tell me something, that
Yeah,
I might not know, right? Like,
prejudice.
yeah, like and like it's gonna sidetrack. I think humility is such key, and humility only comes when you know that you're okay.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
no matter what, right?
Yeah.
And as a psychiatrist, I'm pretty confident now that I now kn like, I know that I'm not, like, neuroscience-y psychiatrist. And, when people are like, "Oh, is that the frontal cortex or, like, amygdala and stuff like that?" I know what they are, but now I've I know that I'm more pro, psychiatry, spirituality, Christian,
Mhm.
and more therapy-based psychiatrist, right? So understanding my limits and saying, "Hey, I know what you're talking about, but I'm not the expert at that." And some people can judge me like, "Well, you're the psychiatrist, so like you should be the expert at neuroscience." It's like, yes, but I also know that my brain capacity, I can be passionate about so many things. I
Right.
am really passionate about bringing mental health to church and also spiritual health to mental health world. Like that's what I'm really passionate about. So it's like I think if everybody knows their story, if
Mhm.
everybody knows their capacity, if everybody knows their expertise, and everybody understand their unique set of gifts, I think we can really talk to each other saying like, "Oh, I didn't know anything about economists out there. Please, can you
Yeah.
educate me and Brissa on why we're seeing these big numbers, negative and plus? Like, how is
Break
this
it
supposed to
down.
work out? Can you
Yeah.
break it down for us?"
Don't hide it from us or
Yeah.
pretend like you know everything, right? Like, I think you said that what you said was so important. Humility is key and humbling ourselves. People need to stop arguing on Facebook, right? And making assumptions. I get in trouble because I ask questions. And so when I ask questions, people assume that I'm pro something. I challenged one question in the pandemic that made it seem like I was anti Black Lives Matter. And then now I challenged the question that someone thought I was like anti Charlie Kirk. And all I asked was, I like gave condolences up to his family. I'm like, his beautiful family. I feel so bad. Like no one should, how disgusting of a nation for someone to like go and do this. And then I posed a question that seemed so dramatically different. And I was like,
Mhm.
I wonder why my algorithm isn't showing any school shootings at all.
Mm.
It's crickets. So
Mhm.
my question is like, I want people to respond to death equally, not because one aligns with you and one doesn't or whatever. So I'm just like, I want everyone to grieve as a nation for everyone equally. And so I was asking the question, like, we need to grieve equally. We need to understand why things are happening. How did Charlie Kirk, why did he die? Why are people just allowed to be crazy and have this like gun out there, right? Anyways,
Mhm,
and so of course the first response words, I knew it. We're going to be
mhm,
defensive, which was funny because I'm like, I'm not defending anything. I just loved everyone else's comments. But
mhm,
these are the same people who are very like not just pro Trump, they're very pro Republican, but these particularly were pro Trump, right? So it didn't matter what.
mhm,
But she was saying maybe it's because maybe because the school shooting was a transgender shooter and people
mhm,
don't want to get canceled, but Charlie Kirk is like as a Christian martyr who did blah blah blah. And I was like, we can't assume anything. And if we're gonna assume that, then you should not be scared to get canceled if you're a follower of Jesus and that's your belief. Don't wimp out. And I don't know, it's just like out of convenience. For me, it's just like we need to be all in Jesus. And then on earth, we need to be like in the gray on most
mhm.
things because we cannot win them all. So,
Here's my take on that though. I don't so then I saw a comment on like somebody was like grieving for Charlie Kirk, right? And somebody else commented, "Well, where were you when George Floyd died?" You know, like or where were you when the shooter
oh,
died, right? So then I'm seeing arguments both sides and I can kind of analyze this in a psychiatrist way. It's
mm,
impossible to grieve for everybody equally. We are just not designed to do that. There are certain cases that even as a child psychiatrist rotating on PICU floor, there are some cases that was like near attempt suicide for a teenager or
mm,
whatever. Sometimes I just kind of have to go do work, but there was one case that was a 2-year-old with a brain damage because the mom's boyfriend shook him and it was like a shaken baby syndrome and it was
mm,
2-year-old. And that really penetrated through my heart and I just couldn't breathe. And I never had that experience with any other, child, like, molestation or like, I saw all the cases, right? But this one hit me so hard, and I
mm,
think it was because my son was 2 at the time, and
mhm,
I just kind of I was like, "Oh my god," like, how can
mhm,
and I was, like, angry, like, I was like, "I don't even wanna" because I had to interview the family, right? And I was, like, hoping and praying that they will not show up at the PICU room while it was
yeah,
you know what I mean? So that to say we cannot grieve for everyone equally. Our heart is not meant to carry that much burden, and I would say Jesus didn't heal everybody.
mm,
He could've just said, "Dear Lord Jesus," or
yeah.
"Dear Lord, not Jesus, dear Lord myself, dear Lord God, heal all the all the illnesses right here, right now." He could've, but he
Yeah,
didn't because healing takes narration of our stories. It's very personal, so he didn't do that. But I think so that being said, I grieve generally for one person, George Floyd or school shooting or Catholic shooting. Gosh, movie shooting, University of Texas shooting, and Idaho University killings, right? Or Charlie Kirk, anything. Assassination of Trump, everything. We should all grieve in a general sense. Oh my gosh, like this is happening, this is happening.
yeah,
But I think what changes the tone from humanism versus I guess, politicism slash insecure reaction is you don't have to find reasons why other people are not grieving with you.
yep, yep, yeah. I love this response. I love it because it also goes to show you've known this about me from a while back, but I told you that I'm a highly sensitive, highly empathetic person.
Mm,
That's gotten
mhm,
me in trouble a lot because
mm,
I have this high expectation of people to grieve or to think the same in terms of like
mm,
what happens to people. And you're right. You're absolutely right. Had someone made this argument on my comment or on my Facebook, I'd be like, "I'm done. That was the answer. This is why."
mm,
Can't make assumptions off of like what we each think. We're reading headlines and can be like, "Oh, maybe because of this." We're like, "Well, as
mhm,
humans, we have to make inferences at the end of the day, right?"
mhm,
But like, we're not going to be right 100% of the time. But I do think that something that's gotten me in trouble personally in every area of life is I do have these high expectations of how people should react to tragedy or
mhm,
happiness or whatever. And when I don't get that response, I get upset because you
mhm,
should be happy that this is happening or you should be whatever. But you're
mhm,
right, because one really clear example of that too is like you haven't gone through what other people's have gone through, right? And like
Mhm.
everyone's priorities are different. Like I have illegal immigrant cousins, like so many of them in California, somewhere, I don't know. And
Mhm.
the grieving process of that is hard because we don't see them for years. So it's like, it's almost like your family has died because you can't
Mhm.
really see them or associate with them really. And then to know that they were deported and then having a 5-year-old come home from school to nothing, to no one. And it's like,
Mhm.
who's taking care of that girl? No one
Mhm.
can get a hold of them. So it's like we feels like death. And so
Mhm.
I don't expect people in that sense because you've made me aware. I don't expect people to understand why, to me, but not to others, immigration is such a
Yeah.
big deal, right? To you, you worked in the PICU with babies, abortion.
Mhm.
Like you have a unique perspective. People
Mhm.
who have been in the army and military, who have seen other people die, or their brothers in the military have seen, I will not experience that. So I
Yeah.
know why they're picking policies. Nothing is more important than one or the other. Like we're all saying like, but this, and we're trying to
Mhm.
equate it. And you're
You
right.
know
It's
what it is like is kinda tying back to unchildhood is when you have a pain point and
mhm,
other people are not addressing your pain point and you get mad at them, that tells me that you were not soothed. Like,
mm,
your pain was not addressed
mhm,
adequately or fully, that and you're not healed, like, the wound still hurts, right?
mhm.
And, just going back to the pro-Trump person who's like, "Well, maybe it was because it's transgender, blah, blah, blah." Like, you don't have to find reasons why you're in pain.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know? But we rationalize, we intellectualize, we justify, we economic, I don't know, calculation-wise, we try to find, "I'm hurting right now, and you're not meeting my pain, and what's wrong with you? And maybe it's because of this, and I disagree with you." It's a pain that begets pain, situation. But just like you said, like, all these scenarios, life is so much diverse and so much more complex than that. And if we get in the, I guess, position of not only humility, but just, and I guess it is humility that I don't know what you went through, and maybe we don't need to find a reason.
Yes.
Maybe we can just be sorry,
Yeah, I love that.
you
It
know?
makes me so happy to like to say there's like a conclusive point in how different sides view things. Like God is
Yeah.
the elephant and he gave us each a little piece of the elephant, but maybe we don't see the whole elephant. Maybe we just
Yeah.
like we're
And
so
that, sorry,
narrowed
that's
in.
something, yeah, something in my head, but you have 2 kids, I have 2 kids. I don't think God is happy with kids fighting.
Right.
When my 2 sons, they get in a fight and they hate each other, or the older one is kinda manipulating the younger one, and the younger one is, like, blindly following him around, right? Like, it does not make me happy that they're not getting along and playing fair, you
Right.
know? I don't think God is happy if you continue to take this reactionary response saying, "My pain is more painful than yours," or "You're not
Exactly.
understanding my pain, and maybe you're the reason why," right? Just stop and just know that they're kids. We're all siblings. Now, it's a little bit different within the body of Christ. Body of Christ in Democrat and Republican Party. We should be a little bit better than people who don't know the love and grace of Jesus Christ. I think that that should
Yep.
be said. I think one thing that I was really encouraged by, though, at the Charlie Kirk's memorial service was that other than a few people, there was not a lot of politicization. It was Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And I
Mhm.
think we need to start heading there because maybe your political affiliation will change. If you like going back, if you put all your basket in one political party and somehow the party switched, and we know that Republicans and Democrats' stance on things switched. I mean, like, there's clips of Hillary Clinton and Obama saying certain things that Trump is doing right now. Like, guys,
Yeah.
politics is going to change,
Yeah. Exactly.
but you should not change.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
we don't have to have all the answers, but
Mm.
how you address different perspective and how you address your story, how you address other people's stories and pain points should not change, and it should get deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah. And if we know that about how political parties are always flip-flopping. Hillary Clinton's a good example. Obama is another good example. I don't know who else really. And I mean, Trump was obviously a Democrat his whole life, right? And go Republican because I'm gonna
And
win.
JFK was a Democratic candidate that was very pro
Yeah,
current Republican policies.
or you think you're gonna win over, right? And so, like, if we know that, if we know that to the core, then, like you said, stabilize yourself, know who you are, don't change your beliefs, but get you're allowed to change your political affiliation because at the end of the day, that should not matter. I think the
Mhm.
fear is in the ostracization. What's that word? Ostracization of, oh, you're not coming with me or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think show-offy moves from even, like, I'm not following a lot of local politics right now because I just can't, but there's this
Mhm.
Democrat apparently who had, like, he's a male, and he's big on social media. He has a lot of followers. I don't know his name, and
Uh-huh.
he had a rally that was planned coincidentally on Charlie Kirk's, like, day, right? So it wasn't like,
Uh-huh.
oh, he did it because of Charlie Kirk.
Uh,
And he's a big Christian of, like,
uh-huh.
whatever race, so I don't know, but, like,
Uh-huh.
a lot of, like, he said a lot of, like, "He should not have died. He was our brother in Christ."
Uh-huh.
Like, he goes, "At the end of the day, he and I said complete opposite things, but that's siblings fighting. Like, my
Mhm.
brother should not have died." Yeah, I found that beautiful, but I think it also was you not him. I don't think he was from what I know, but I think the political Democratic Party used it as a point of like, "See, we have Christians too," you know? So it's like fighting,
Oh,
like,
stop.
stop. Everyone who posts on Facebook every single time was like, "Well, the left, blah, 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 the right is at it again." And I'm like,
Mhm.
you're only upping your algorithm to gain more of your like-minded followers so that you can become a cult and ideological.
Yeah.
That's all that is happening.
As this episode's impromptu episodes airs out, there will be always we know that there will be always maybe 20-25% of people who will listen to this and interpret it however they want, right?
Yeah.
With their agenda. But I just hope that this episode captures like 50-60% of you guys
Yeah.
who are like, I'm not satisfied with my party's response, or I'm not satisfied with the direction that my party's going. Or, man, I know that my party's incomplete because they're missing these pieces. It's okay to think that. It's okay to think that. And Democratic Party, Republican Party are not paying your taxes, are not
Mhm.
paying your bills. They don't
Mm.
owe you. You don't owe them anything.
Exactly.
And it's okay to say, I was right about this. I was wrong about this. I'm just going to see next election year because by the next election time, it might be different set of issues that is
Mhm.
closer to your heart. It's okay to not drink the Kool-Aid.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
okay to just live your life and listen to stories, know your story, and just really live open-handedly and just be Jesus to whoever you come in touch with. And that's okay. That's
Mhm.
good enough.
I love this. This is such an uplift. I feel like we needed this episode this week because
Yeah.
it's hard to talk to someone who, everyone right now, the next episode should be about this.
Yeah.
And you understand this as a psychiatrist because you have to navigate the waters very well, that we need to learn to listen. Like, I want a whole
Mhm.
episode on just listening without teaching, without sharing our opinion if it's not
Yeah.
asked for. We need to listen and not take offense. I mean, obviously, offense will be like, I hate your family, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, where's this coming from? And
Mhm.
it's just about things that should not be part of your identity, your political
Mm.
beliefs, your house, your social status, your tax income bracket, like your
Mhm.
possessions. When you detach from that, who are you at the core? Your bio should
Mhm.
never say, I'm a strong left, right, like that, like you're going to die and leave that behind. God's going to look at your
Mhm.
choices. And I really think that another great episode should just be about listening to people because you have a B-roll. I forgot which episode it's from, but there's a B-roll on like how to be there for your friends. And it's about
Yeah.
asking questions. And it's like, let's be there for friends by asking questions. And you do this as a psychiatrist. You pose
Mhm.
a question, not just challenging questions. You just ask questions for further to dig at the core of where this is coming from. But
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, don't lecture me if I'm not asking to be lectured, right? And I think a lot of us do that where we're like, well, blah blah blah, and then we get tired and
Right.
stop listening. So we're not listening to
Mhm.
each other. We're just coming in defensive already. There's no
Yeah.
safe
No,
space.
I love that. And this was a really great episode. I think it was a timely one. I hope that this conversation created a safe space for the audience to really speculate, hey, what else is out there? If I can just kind of put a break in my life and my choices, political choices, economic choices, life choices, right?
Mhm.
Where would I pivot or do I stay the same? So
Yeah.
it's like I hope that these kind of conversations really creates a space for you to really reflect on your life and really decide, oh, I like this aspects of it and I don't like this aspect of it because we're all troubleshooting.
Mhm.
Nobody has it perfect. Nobody has it all figured out together. And probably the people who toot the loudest that they have it all figured out probably don't. So let Brissa and my honest conversation today that turned out from our meeting to a podcast episode. Let it encourage you that I want you guys to have these kind of I hope that you guys find somebody like Brissa, like in my life, where we can just really have these healthy discussion. And Brissa and I don't agree on everything, but I think we both care about each other. And I think we both want to understand each other. And that is really the foundation for healthy conversations. Thank you, Brissa, for being here.
Of course. This was actually so fun.
And if you really want more of this, please email me at hi@eugenekim.com because I'm looking for ideas to kind of shed my psychiatrist perspective on what's going on in our world today. Thank you.
It's a